Hi, everyone. It is Wednesday of the second week of Easter, and it's time for another Wednesday Word. You probably noticed that I'm in a little different place than I normally am for this week's reflection. And I confess that that's because I'm stuck. It happens sometimes. It often happens when I'm getting ready for Sunday sermons. I'll stand up in the pulpit and I'll look out over the congregation and I'll think about what you need to hear. But sometimes being in that perspective, I have a hard time imagining what it is that would be a helpful word for you. And so when I get really stuck, I do what I'm doing right now. I'll step out of the pulpit and walk out into the congregation, and I'll sit in a random spot in the pews. And I'll think about you. I'll think about the people who sit in that place or near that place or over across the aisle. And I'll ponder from this different perspective what it is that you might need to or want to hear from the person standing up there in the pulpit. It's not always easy to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. I've talked frequently over this past year about my firm conviction that one of the main problems that besets our communities and our country and our world is our inability to step into the perspective of others, to see the world the way that other people do, to imagine what their thoughts and questions and dreams and hopes and challenges and struggles and victories are. It's really difficult. But this time of being stuck this week, trying to figure out what my Wednesday or Thursday word is going to look like, has convinced me even more that this type of work is vital to being in community together, to forming the sort of authentic community that makes the work of the church possible, that makes it possible for us to be the kind, compassionate people that Christ calls us to be. To reach out to our neighbors and to say to them, "You are a part of me that I don't yet know," as the great civil rights activist Valerie Kaur is fond of saying. This is difficult and challenging work. And I know that saying that isn't particularly profound, and that maybe you'll find this video to be a waste of your time. But I hope you don't. I hope that you'll join me in pondering again the work of stepping into another person's perspective, of trying to imagine what life is like for them, and of reaching out to them on the basis of that reflection, that pondering, that imagination. Because it's curiosity about our neighbors, our friends, and even strangers that makes it possible for us to live in love for them and for one another, and to speak a word that is needful, a word that will touch them where they are, but not leave them where they are. So if you haven't done so recently, I invite you, even if you do so physically, to try to sit in a different place or a different space, to find a way to break out of your normal patterns of thinking, to ponder what's possible. It's hard to do. Sometimes it can be a little frightening. But as we've seen throughout this Easter season, we know that even in those times of fright and doubt, those times of challenge and struggle, we know that Christ is with us, that Christ is raised, and that with him by our side, we can do anything that God puts before us. Try a different perspective. Try to look at the world from a different way and see what God will show you about what God is up to in our midst. I hope you're all safe and well, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week for another Wednesday Word. Take care.